Hello and welcome everyone to another wonderful afternoon here at Live at the Waterhole. My name is Lee and I will be with you for the show today. Once again, looking forward to find out everything that's going to come and join us across our different locations thanks to Africam. Starting off here with some elephants at Jamalo who have started the pool party. Having some fun, coming for a drink, cooling off, always providing us with endless entertainment. Now, a reminder to all the viewers, or to let you know, perhaps if you are joining us for the first time, that this is a live and interactive show. So I would love to hear from you. No matter where you are in the world, you can chat to me, say hello, as well as ask any questions that you may have, depending on what we're looking at or anything in general. And hear from, or you can just say hi. That's perfectly fine too. And you can do that at Wild Earth website through the Wild Earth. Otherwise, you can join the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag Wild Earth, or send through your questions in the YouTube chat stream. Well, it has been very cool to see so many elephants here already at Jamala. It's always a lot of fun to see the little ones here. Hi, Jack. You are watching from Yorkshire in the UK, and you say the elephant trumpet made me jump. Well, there is another one. Hopefully, that one didn't give you too much of a fright. They do sort of come from nowhere sometimes, so it can sometimes make you jump in your chair. Jenna, so good to hear from you. Thank you for sending through your comment. You say, glad to have you with us, Amy. Looking forward to another great live at the Waterhole. Well, me too, and what a way to start. You can see the coloration on the backs of these elephants here, quite sort of a reddish brown color. And that's not the natural color of an elephant. Usually they're just completely gray, but that's actually from the soil which the elephants toss up onto their backs. And so in some area close by to here, these elephants would have found some ground that's a little bit more red in color. Mercedes, good to hear from you. You say you're loving all of those Ellies. The little one's rubbing its foot now on the log there. You can see this one on the right also was just resting its back left leg on these logs. And they do provide very convenient scratching posts for the elephants, especially the little ones who maybe can't find something the right height. These fallen over logs are great for them. Diane, wonderful to hear from you. You say, good morning, Amy. Looks like another Ellie-filled action day today. And you say that it cheers you up to no end. Well, I'm so glad that the elephants can put a smile on your face, Diane. They definitely put a smile on mine. Oh, a lot of trumpeting going on there. Keisha, you want to know if elephants have taste buds at the tip of their trunks. So no, elephants won't have taste buds. They'll have, well, they have lots of different hairs, but they have a lot of a sense of smell, basically, that run along the trunk in order for them to have a very good sense of smell. But although sometimes it looks like they might be tasting something with their trunk because of the little almost like finger-like tips, so they can use that to pick up things small as a feather, but also, of course, to rip off leaves from branches and that sort of thing. So they have a lot of control over the tip of the trunk. No taste buds there, that is reserved for the mouth, but a keen sense of smell, and they're able to use that tip of the trunk to maneuver and pick up things, to sniff. And sometimes that sniffing may look like somewhat like tasting. They might dab their trunk in something and put it in their mouth to taste it, for example, or to sniff certain chemicals or things like that. But no actual taste buds at the end of the trunk. Imagine if they could taste that mud that they're throwing onto themselves. That wouldn't be too pleasant. Quite a bit of wind, it sounds like, there at Madikwe today. Seems like this little elephant is starting its mud bath. Quite a few that are getting further and further into the water here.
Hi, Lodge. Thank you for your question. Very interesting one at that. So thank you through. You were wondering, are elephants aware that a female is pregnant, and do they treat her differently? So definitely, I think they would be aware. When it comes to the animal kingdom, particularly within males, there is a lot of chemical sensory called pheromones that are released, including when pregnancy is apparent in a female. And not only would she be aware that she, but also the females around her in her herd, as well as any males that would pick up from her urine or even maybe her temporal glands. That's slightly different or raised, or there's a slight variance that says that she's pregnant. So I think the females in the herd would be aware, or other elephants would be aware. In terms of being treated differently, not that I know of. It's not something that I've particularly seen in terms of being ostracized or being particularly more aware of or attentive to her, put it that way. I think elephants are so, let me say, good at being pregnant and raising their young that they carry on as needed. They eat, they drink, they rest, they poop, they carry on doing their thing even though they're pregnant. But as it gets closer to the time of birth, I think that does affect the herd, and they do treat her differently. Often they'll crowd around, they'll help her during the birthing process, even if it's more of just a protection role for that little one that's about to drop, so that it doesn't get preyed upon, because mom is so vulnerable in that time. So there's a lot of dynamics with regards to elephant birth. I have never seen it happen before. I've seen a very newly born calf, but I think the process of a female giving birth is quite lengthy and involved, and I think the group then can start to treat her differently in terms of that becomes the focus of the herd to make sure that the little one survives the birth, and that it's safe and that sort of thing. But up to that process, I think these females are pregnant so often for almost most of their lives. They're pregnant 22 months, so I think they're very much used to that. All right. Oh, some exciting change of scenery. Let's head over somewhere else with a rhino. Oh, wow. This is very cool. Mantis Founders Lodge in the Eastern Cape. And there's a rhino that's come to drink. Actually, couldn't believe it when Tadiwa mentioned it in my ear. But this is very cool. Let's have a look, everyone. This particular rhino has come down for a drink. You can see how pointy those ears are. Also very wide mouth there in the front. So this would be a white rhino. Couldn't quite tell. Oh, it does look like it is a male. And it's already moving away. Come back. But this is so special, and I'm so happy there's another location where we can show you rhinos that do come on screen. And are incredibly special animals, and I'm so happy. This has made my day. Looks as though he's having a bit of a scratch there on that tree, or he was. And off he goes. So just a short drink there, a little golden moment for us here at Live at the Waterhole. That was very, very cool. And now that rhino is probably off to continue grazing. They have to keep eating quite strictly grass, so that would be what a white rhino would be eating in comparison to something like a black rhino, which is a browser, meaning they eat leaves and twigs from trees. This is a beautiful spot. It's actually my first time at this waterhole, so I also wasn't quite sure of the name when Tindiwa gave it to me, but this is a gorgeous spot in the Eastern Cape. And quite a lovely view here today with beautiful blue sky and clouds, and a view over what looks like some valleys below. And it's always good if there's anything else popping up. There's a little bird moving around there that looks like a wagtail, Cape wagtail, just on the bank there. That's actually a species we don't see so often in the Lowveld. We usually only see the pied wagtail, which is around rivers, usually, and much more black and white in color. You can see that wagtail very much named after that exact motion of the wagging of that little tail as they walk. And I love that we have locations in the Eastern Cape. That's my original province in South Africa where I'm from. That's great to see some familiar birds. Very, very sweet with that little wag of the tail. And they love to come onto your veranda and pick up any sort of breadcrumbs or seeds that fall off your roll when you're eating lunch outside. Lenny, hello. You say, hi, Amy. Are you still coming to Djuma soon? Yes, I am. So I will be back at Djuma next week, Friday. I will be starting there for a few days, so I'm looking forward to being back at Djuma next week, Friday. Oh, that little wagtail seemed to be having a little drink of water. Or maybe it's just picking around. I'll also be looking for little insects, or that's probably what it's picking for there. I thought maybe it was drinking, but it's probably looking for small little aquatic insects that are on top of the surface of the water. There's a feather lying there as well. Quite a large feather. Large whitish feather there. Far too big to be from a wagtail, so I'm not exactly sure what a bird it could be from, but that's quite cool. And wagtails you'll find all over the Eastern Cape. Very much a common resident around households or lodges, or like you can see here in waterholes. Well, that was a wonderful visit here to Mantis Founders Lodge Waterhole. We are going to head over to Tembe for some elephants in action. There's always such a beautiful scene here at Tembe, and it does look like these two bulls are having a bit of a go at each other. There's a warthog in the background that doesn't seem too bothered at all, although I'm sure they'll move very quickly if those elephants get any closer. Oh, there they're moving. Well, this is looking quite intense. There was a video I saw maybe a few weeks ago that came up of two elephant bulls fighting very seriously, and the one actually pinned the other one underwater to try and drown it. It was very, very intense, and just shows how serious these elephant bull fights can get if they are evenly matched and if they are really trying to determine who is the most dominant one. All right, they're coming out now from behind those bushes. It does seem almost like the one is pushing the other one off in terms of following it. It looks like they are going behind these trees here, everyone. Who knows though, because sometimes when they are fighting like that, if the other one does turn around and put up a fight, they might easily come back into frame. But Keisha, back to you were asking about birds in the Eastern Cape area there where we were, and are there any specific birds in this part of the country that can't be found in the Kruger area? And yes, most certainly. There's actually birds all over in different parts of South Africa that you wouldn't be able to find in the Greater Kruger. Not to say that some of them have never been seen. There are some rare recordings here or there. But in terms of commonly seen in the Eastern Cape, it's also a very diverse province. So where we were specifically with that rhino, I couldn't say exactly if some of these birds that I'm going to be mentioning now are seen there, but within the Greater Eastern Cape area, you're looking at all the way from sort of the coastal region, which provides a very unique habitat in comparison to the area like the Lowveld. So that gives some unique species that are seen along the biome called the Indian Ocean Coastal Belt, which falls in the Eastern Cape area. Then you're looking at a lot more drier, arid habitats. So you get a few different Cape species that together with the Western Cape and Northern Cape, that sort of forms part of the Great Cape region. And there's some unique species there. And then very big open grasslands, which also provides some unique habitat for different sort of bustards and korhans, which you wouldn't find in the Lowveld area. So if you are interested in birding, or maybe you are already an avid birder, you would know that it's so important to travel to different habitats, different biomes, because the variety of birds. There's not quite as many variety in terms of variety, different species that are known for the east in comparison to like the Greater Kruger, just because it's quite a harsh climate. Oh, there's the one elephant out there now. So there's a few in that way for the whole of the Eastern Cape in comparison to the greater sort of Lowveld or Greater Kruger, Limpopo and Mpumalanga area. But that's not to say that there aren't a few special ones. So what comes to mind are things like a bokmakiri, very pretty yellow and black bird that has a beautiful call. I love to hear that. Korhan, Ludwig and Denham's bust, which are very special to see. What else comes to mind? Along the coast, you're looking at all the foresty areas like the Knysna Taroko, and things like blue mantle crested flycatchers, square-tailed drongos. I'm just thinking off the top of my head now, Keisha, but those are the ones that I can think of that come to mind. Also, like red-eyed bulbuls, for example, Cape bulbul as well. That's the different eye colors for those birds. So there's a few different specialities. Namakwa cyan grouse as well that you can see in these areas that you wouldn't see in the Greater Kruger area where I'm based. All right, well, it is a day with great variety. How exciting. Let's head over to Mabula with some giraffes. Oh, well, this is wonderful. It's the first time for myself seeing giraffes here. We had baboons here the other day. So hopefully we can get a nice sighting of these giraffes coming to drink. Well, it is great to see these giraffes here, everyone. And like I say today, wow, what variety. From elephants to rhinos to a bit of birding in between, and now some giraffes. And I'm not sure if I actually got to this question yesterday, but there was a question regarding if giraffes are always so cautious. And yes, they most certainly are. They are just so cautious by nature. And it's interesting, I mean, many of the your prey type species are cautious, but when it comes to giraffe, there's just something extra cautious about them in the way they conduct themselves, especially in open areas around water. And I think it is because they are so aware of that vulnerability when their head is all the way down. Just like that. Jono, you want to know if there's an easy way to tell if a giraffe is pregnant? Well, this one would definitely never be pregnant. It's a male. We can see that penile sheath belly button, as well as on top of the head, those bald horns. But you know what? I was actually saying the other day when we were in the park and I saw a giraffe and I was like, I wonder if that female is pregnant. And then I thought, you know what, I don't think I've ever particularly noticed a pregnant female giraffe. I don't know if they just carry very well, or maybe we don't tend to see them at the end of their pregnancy, and usually it's right at the end with these animals that you sort of can really see that a female is pregnant because they have such a large body that they carry very well in that way. But I think it's a swollen belly. Jono would be the best answer for that question. She would maybe have her teats at the back between her legs swell, definitely after birth, of course, to provide milk, but also before, in anticipation of the baby's arrival. But there's no other signs, there's no other changes in terms of coloration or glands that secrete a certain substance, or even maybe a chemical change that we would pick up with her scent or anything that I've heard of or seen. So I think for a giraffe to easily tell if she is pregnant, I think it would definitely be the size of her belly and just seeing that sort of bloated stomach. Similar to a zebra, I suppose they do look generally quite plump, but when a female zebra is pregnant, wow, she really bulges on either. Ethan, what a great question. Thank you so much for sending that through. You say that people describe the structure of a giraffe group as disordered. Is it because there isn't a lot of research on giraffes, or do they just not form bonds with one another? Now, Ethan, this is fascinating. So I haven't actually heard the word disordered used before. The general term that we speak about when it comes to giraffe social structure is temporary associations. So they don't form those sort of family group bonds like an elephant herd. They don't form harems like zebras, where you have a stallion and his mares and their offspring that sort of stick together. You sort of have these ever-changing type of family structures where you definitely have mom and calf. They will always stick together, but sometimes they're completely on their own. Sometimes you'll have groups of females together, but they don't always stay together. So you might find these females together today, and then one wanders off the next day. Then you have some young males and females together. Then sometimes you find large groups of males together, forming what we would term as a bachelor herd, but that's not permanent. So it really is what we call temporary associations, and maybe disordered is another term that could be used to describe it. But it's fascinating, and I don't think there's a lack of research, although there's always more research that could be done. And I've actually read some interesting things about giraffe social structure, and that they are finding more stability than once thought was within giraffes in terms of associations and that sort of thing. But it is a fascinating animal, and really the only one of its kind with that sort of social structure that I'm aware of in Africa, in the animals that I'm very familiar with, that I know of, in terms of sort of this very generalized social structure that changes quite regularly. And you do see some similarities as when it comes to females being in estrus. You sort of find then the males sort of congregate around her. That also happens with kudus, even sometimes in bulls, but generally then there's one dominant male that follows the herd. But then with giraffes, those males will then compete in fighting called necking, where they'll swing and try and determine who's the most dominant male, which can turn very, very serious as well. So it's fascinating, absolutely, Ethan, and it's something that I think is ongoing, and we're going to be learning more about giraffes, but I don't think there's a complete lack of research. Oh, well, no one's asked that question before, so no one's looked into it. There has been things and research done to see what their social structure is like, and those are the findings so far. Catherine, hi. Thank you so much for sharing your story. You say that you actually have seen a giraffe giving birth, and you weren't aware that she was pregnant at all until the feet started coming out from her backside. Well, there you go. Jono, Catherine first-hand experience there, seeing a giraffe give birth, which is absolutely incredible, by the way, and also not looking pregnant at all until giving birth. So they are an animal, and like I was saying the other day to my family, I was like, I actually don't ever remember seeing a female and saying, whoa, she's pregnant, like you do sometimes with elephants and zebras. So that does make sense that they actually don't look very pregnant at all until time of birth. Well, let's add some more variety to the show today, everyone. Let's head over to Shalati to see some hippos. Oh, this is fantastic. These hippos have come out to lie on the sandbank right in the middle of the day. And I know some of you at home will be saying, oh, but I thought hippos are meant to be in the water. Now, these hippos, especially around the Sabi River, which is where these hippos are, they do tend to come out during the day. I've noticed they love to sunbathe. And if they tend to get a little bit too dry, then they'll head into the water or too hot. But it is wonderful temperatures now in winter. It's still about 28, 29 degrees Celsius. But it's got this lovely coolness in the air and only really gets this hot for about 2 or 3 hours. And then it starts cooling down again in the afternoon. So these hippos are absolutely loving life right now. And all those birds you can see hopping around on their backs, those are oxpeckers. You may wonder why we have oxpeckers on hippos, but they do sometimes get ticks at night when they go off and graze through all the bushes. They do sometimes get ticks and parasites on their bodies, so that provides the tasty snacks for the oxpeckers who come and peck away at them. Well, I don't think these hippos are going to move very far at all. So why don't we head over to some Ellies who are swimming at Naledi, and then we'll come straight back over here. Well, there is quite a herd that is arriving here at the waterhole. This is fantastic, everybody. Enan girl, hello. You say some amazing sightings today. Lovely to see them all like this. It really has been fantastic so far, and there's still a whole nother hour to go, so who knows what else is going to pop up for us. But it's wonderful to have such variety, and not just the same animals, but also different ones doing different things, which is always entertaining. All. The level of the water in the trough there has also gone down because of all these elephants drinking. Slowly it'll rise again as water's fed into it. But I was just mentioning yesterday how sometimes it goes down all the way where you can't even see the anymore. And that's due to a herd like this one coming through and all having a good drink. Dildarav, hello. You say, hi Amy, I was wondering how many calves do elephants and rhinos have in their life? So that's a great question. It's actually quite similar because of the fact that rhinos live rough half the lifespan of an elephant, but they have a shorter gestation period. So over 15 months, elephants are 20 months. And look at having calves around every 3 to 5 years or so in those intervals. It's dead set. It can be different for every individual female, depending on when she first gets pregnant, and then how often after that she falls pregnant, although they are before basically immediately give to their calf, but usually it's a year or two after that. And so if we look at them when they first become sexually mature in order to carry the calf, and then till the end of their life, you're looking at about 12 to 15 calves a lifetime estimate. So that will be different for individual, but anywhere from 12 to 15 calves. You can see some of them now moving off slowly. Well, it was cool to come check in on these ellies, everyone, but let's head back over to Shalati, to the hippos who are beginning to get a bit active. Well, relative to what they were, I suppose this is quite active. And just to point out, to the left of this front hippo is a African pied wagtail, which is what I was referring to earlier in comparison to the Cape wagtail we saw there at Mantis Founders Lodge. It's now just moving across the face, in front of the face of that hippo. Or maybe these hippos are going to head back into the water, everyone. Maybe starting to get a little bit warm there in the sun. Time to cool off. And this is a great view here from Kruger Shalati, where you can see the beautiful Sabi River and exactly where these hippos are in relation to that. You can see the scars on this one on the right, particularly standing out with the way the sun is landing on its body. And I'm fascinated by hippos' feet. They are so tiny in comparison to their massive bodies. Small legs as well, but still manage to work effectively for them. Granny Mango, great question. You want to know if mud wallowing would be beneficial for hippos. So generally, when we look at the reasons for mud wallowing for things like rhinos, buffaloes, elephants, warthogs, it's generally first and foremost to cool down. And when it comes to hippos, they just go into the water. So primarily then that reason for mud wallowing isn't necessary. Oh, there's one coming to join its friends this side. And so that is why we don't see hippos going in mud wallowing, because their primary habitat is in very close proximity to water, if not in the water, for most of their lives. There's no real need for them to mud wallow. If they want to get into the water, they just get into the water, like we're watching that happen right now, and keep cool that way. There's no reason when they do come out the water generally at night to feed. It's already a lot cooler. And so they don't need to cake mud on their skin to keep them cool. Also because they tend to lie in quite clean water, flowing rivers or larger water holes generally, that mud would just come off, wash off right away. So hippo's one of the animals that we don't actually see mud wallowing. They also don't have sort of thick hair or fur on their skin. If we look at, even elephants have quite a lot of hair on them, rhino, warthogs especially, and buffalo probably being the most hairy of them all, where that mud can sort of cling to. Whereas hippos, although they do have quite big whiskers on the tip of their nose, they don't really have hair on the rest of their body, which means that that mud would find it quite difficult to actually stick onto their quite rubbery surface of their skin. Ah, yes, Joanne, hippos most definitely do sleep. You say this answers the question as to whether they sleep or not. They do love a bit of a rest in the day. I wonder if we're going to see all 4 of these hippos eventually move back into the water. There's one looks like it started grazing there. We do sometimes get asked, well, what do hippos eat? And we say grass, but I think it's sometimes difficult for you at home to believe it unless you see it for yourself. So here we go, a hippo grazing, everybody. Cheryl, hello. You're asking if hippos are in a family group like elephants. So no, not exactly. Hippos actually are quite territorial animals, which is very different from elephants. But you will find mothers and calves and sort of a group of females with their offspring, and then a dominant male being within that pod. So there are some similarities in that they are both pachyderms, large herbivorous animals that are social. They live in groups, but other than that, that's really where the similarities with regards to their family groups end. A whole flock of oxpeckers seem to have landed on this individual here now. Often one can mistake a hippo for a rock, and you can see why when they are still like this and just the tops of their backs are sticking out. Of course, then when they lift their heads, it becomes very obvious what they are. Well, we have had a wonderful time here with these hippos at Shalati, everyone, but let's head over to Olifants River to see what's happening over there. Oh wow, what is happening over here? This is fantastic. We have some warthogs and elephants really enjoying some mud here. They found a really good spot there, it looks like, where there's a bit of an alcove, and they've been able to dig out into the bank and mix that ground with the water to make some good sludge. Sanjeev, that is so true. You've got giants and dwarfs. Well, in comparison, I suppose those are quite small to the elephants, right next to each other. Now, apparently, a bit earlier on, one of the cheeky elephants chased the warthogs away, but you never know, that may happen again. Looks like most of them have now moved off into more open areas where they're going to start feeding. But they've definitely had some fun for the afternoon. Elephants just absolutely love having some fun in the mud. And that you can hear the odd bird call there is from a chin spot batis. It always strikes me in wintertime how the sunlight now almost looks like it's already 6 p.m. but it's actually only 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The very soft lighting already starts from about this time of day in the winter time. Cheryl, indeed, you say, oh, to be able to play in the mud like Ellies and children, what fun. Even warthogs, they also absolutely love it, and it does bring back childlike qualities. Well, from one spot to another, everyone, let's keep our journey going and let's head over to Victoria Falls to see what's happening at that waterhole. Well, I have really been enjoying visiting this particular spot that we have here on the Waterhole show. We've had such a variety of bird life and an impala as well there in the background. Now these very large, similar looking birds, some of them have quite pinky heads and also big pink air sacs in front of their chests, are called marabou storks. There are 1 or 2 yellow-billed storks, slightly smaller in size, just towards the left-hand side. And there's a lovely view of that inflated air sac on that particular marabou stalk. It has to do with courtship display. Males will inflate that sac to impress females. They also make quite a deep sort of sounding call that air sac assists with. But most of the time it is to do with their mating and courtship displays. Sometimes it can be confused with what we refer to as a crop, especially in birds of prey, where in vultures there is sort of a sac that's around their chest which can hold extra food that they can't eat right now, and later on that food will then head down to their gizzard where it will be eaten and crushed. But for the marabou stalk, that is not the case. That is just an air sac. So, Questo, you want to know what the stalks can eat at the waterhole. So if we look at things like the yellow-billed stalks, which there's one just popping through there with a very bright yellow bill, they would be looking for fish, tadpoles, sort of aquatic mollusk or crustacean even that they would eat. Whereas your marabou stalks are primarily scavengers. They function together with vultures in a similar grouping. And this particular spot, Questo, there's sometimes leftover bones, carcasses, things like that actually given out very close just next to this waterhole. So that's often why we have marabou stalks congregating. Although I have seen them also, of course, getting water from the waterhole. These bigger marabou stalks have also been known to hunt fish if need be, so they could also be interested in that. And then the birds sitting down there actually is two of them. Some further back as well. There are a few pelicans that have been around here over the last few days that have been on the show. Mac, yes, it is quite a large birding party. You can see some of the vultures here closest to us. It looks like 3 hooded vultures. I think there's a small, I think that might be a 3-banded plover or a blacksmith lapwing just to the left of them. Well, a lovely little pop up here into Zimbabwe, but here we have quickly jumped across to the Djuma Dam Cam, everyone, where there is a fish eagle. It looks like it's caught a barbel, sorry, a catfish. This is very cool. Leander said we need to go to Dam Cam, and I was about to link you across, but it was just too good. We needed to get here as quickly as possible. Awesome, everyone. A African fish eagle has caught a catfish. Not often that you actually get to see what a catfish looks like as well. But this is really fantastic. Wow. Oh, Canine Girl, I'm so happy we could show you one of your favorite birds. The fish eagle is just magnificent. It's also got an iconic African call. When you hear that, it just makes me feel like I'm in the bush no matter where I am. A Liverpool bird indeed. It is a beautiful fish eagle. You'll probably see it eat quite a bit on the ground, and then sometimes what they do is once it's a bit lighter, it'll then fly off with the carcass in its talons and land in a tree and continue to eat there because it's quite vulnerable here. Anything could run and chase it off and take it, maybe a jackal or another predator. Whereas as soon as it's got some of the major weight out of it, it'll fly off into a tree and perch there with the rest of the carcass. Wow, well, what exciting to just add on to a really fantastic show today. What to spend the last few minutes at the waterhole. This is really special. You can only imagine how strong talons are, but also that beak, it's all it has really to eat away through the flesh. There are some very aroma babblers at the moment that we can hear. Canangle, yes, it is very impressive. The one actually, it's not standing on the ground, it's actually grasped the fish. I think that is if any runs towards it or tries to take that away, and it's already got its claws gripped so it can just fly off with it. Darkman Lover, thank you so much for your message. We appreciate it here at the show. You say thank you, Wild Earth in Africa, and Amy for another great live at the Waterhole show. You are all appreciated. Enjoy your Sunday fun day. It is Sunday fun day, of course. Hopefully everyone's in the last little bit of their weekends. Oh, Cheryl, it's such a pleasure. I was able to do the show with you all today and share what I do know and be able to answer your questions. And to everyone who did send in questions today, thank you for that as well as comments. Appreciate it. And the waterhole for a little while. I did mention earlier to Lenny that I'll be back on Juno with your lives from next week Friday, so I'm looking forward to seeing you all then. But I do wish all of you a lovely day and evening ahead. Remember that straight after this is on Safari, followed by your Lancet drive, so please make that you stay tuned to Wild Earth and don't miss out any of the action. who knows, maybe you'll get a look at this bird on the Sunset Drive in a little. Most definitely think somebody. I'm going to have a look at this fish eagle on the way here. But everyone, this is goodbye, and that you all have enjoyed the show today. It really has been one with so much happening all over in Africa, which is just fantastic that we have variety. Anyway, everyone, do wish you a pleasant evening ahead, depending where you are in the world. See you again next week on Live Drives. Goodbye.
Well, a very good afternoon to everybody. Thanks for joining us once again for our highlight show, coming here directly from Djuma Private Game Reserve here in the northern Asabi Sands, and it is a lovely afternoon. Well, if it's your first time joining us, well, the next half an hour we're going to discuss exactly what's been happening over the last 24 hours, yesterday's Sunset Safari, as well as this morning's Sunrise Safari. This is On Safari.